Hey guys, what's up? It's Erica. Welcome back to my channel. I'm making a video talking about the 10 worst things about Cal Poly SLO. I went to Cal Poly from 2015 until the end of 2019. I actually loved Cal Poly. I think it's a great school. Obviously, there's room for improvement, but I thought it would be helpful to make a video talking about the worst things about Cal Poly. If you are considering going, these are the biggest downfalls of Cal Poly that I think. I did talk to my friends and asked them like what they thought was the worst thing about Cal Poly. The first thing that I wrote down as being a horrible thing about Cal Poly is the lack of diversity on campus. Cal Poly is ranked the whitest university out of all of the public schools in California. They also have the lowest percentage of Black students on campus. They actually have under 1% population of Black students on campus, which is like crazy. That's not a representation of where we live. Obviously, I'm white. I can't experience racism, so I don't personally know, but I did hear many stories of horrible things that people said and did, and just in general, walking around and not seeing anybody that looks like you is not a great feeling. Yeah, I would say that that's the worst thing about Cal Poly. Along with that, there's just a lack of diverse backgrounds and ideas. A lot of people, when they visit Cal Poly SLO, are like, wow, I feel like I'm being transported back in time. And when you first say that, it just seems like, oh, it's just a small, quaint town. And then you realize it's because I don't see tons of diversity on campus in sexual orientation, expression of gender, different ethnicities, all that. It's lacking a lot of diversity in so many ways. The next issue that I wrote down is that housing is really hard to get and it's really expensive. My first year I lived on campus. You do have an option to live on campus your whole time at Cal Poly, but it's not really a popular option. Most people that I know move off campus their second year. I lived in a townhome. It's called Mustang Village. It's like right across the train tracks from the football field, super close to school, but I think I paid like $600 to share a room, and it's gone up in price a lot. After that, I moved to a house. It's great because you're in a small town, like you do get options of living in a house and having a backyard and all that, which was awesome, but rent is so expensive. I think my rent was like $1,000 or something. If you have like your own room in SLO, you will probably pay between $700 and over $1,000 a month on rent. There's such a small selection of houses around campus and it is so hard to get them. And it's really dominated by people in Greek life. The houses around campus are obviously everybody wants to live within walking distance of campus. People in Greek life get the houses and they're not like official houses, but they're just passed down to people in that house. Greek life really kind of dominates and would benefit just in the sense of you would have way more options for housing. The next thing that I wrote down is that parking is really expensive on campus. And it's hard to park around campus because you need a permit pass. There are a bunch of neighborhoods around Cal Poly, but you need a permit to park there, so you can only get a permit if you live in the neighborhood and the city gives you 2 passes. When I was at school, parking I think was about $400 a quarter, which is really expensive. It's also really hard to find parking. Unless you get there early in the morning, you're gonna be searching for parking. So that's like a pain that you pay so much and you still are not guaranteed a great spot, or that you're not gonna circle for like 20 minutes. The next thing I wrote about Cal Poly is that flying in and out of Cal Poly is really difficult and expensive. Most students are from in-state, but Cal Poly compared to other CSU campuses does pull in way more out-of-state students than they normally get. They redid the SLO airport since I was a student there. I flew out of the airport one time and they only were going like 3 places, and I got there at like 9 a.m. and I had to sit outside because they weren't open until 10, which I feel like most airports, at least since I'm from San Jose and near San Francisco, Airports are open 24/7. They've redone the airport and they do fly more places. It's nicer. They're definitely increasing the capacity at their airport, but it's expensive. It's not easy to fly in and out of. A lot of students fly into San Jose or San Francisco or LAX. But then there's just like the whole coordinating your rideshare or a car of how to get to Cal Poly, which is about 3 hours away from all those airports. The next thing I wrote about Cal Poly is something so many people complain about. It is genuinely like a horrible thing about Cal Poly, and they know it and they do not change it. And it is just the food in general at Cal Poly. It's just not good. Let me restate that. It's okay your first few weeks, but they have so little options that you are gonna like be so tired and so sick of all the food. Also, if you have any like dietary restrictions or follow like a certain diet, that would be really, really, really difficult because you like don't really have that many options. The more healthy option on campus was Red Radish, which is like a salad place, but it was really expensive. They've changed how they do their meal plans every year pretty much, but one thing that hasn't changed is I know you have to pay for it your freshman year, and whatever you don't spend, you don't get back, you lose. So my freshman year, I would just buy everybody food because it was just gonna go to waste if I didn't spend all my plus dollars. Back then, we were on this plus dollar system, and every quarter I had extra money, so it would roll over per quarter, but then by the end of my freshman year, if I didn't use that money, it was just like gonna go to Cal Poly and I'd never see it. So yeah, I would just buy other people food. I bought a bunch of random stuff for me to bring home. My freshman year, I ate horribly. I would eat a cookie for breakfast half the time, which was like such a horrible life choice, but that's what your freshman year of college is for, I guess. If you are like in any way conscious of what you eat and put into your body, there are just not a lot of great options at Cal Poly. The next thing I wrote is that the campus is really hilly and it also has a lot of ADA issues. So if you have trouble walking or in a wheelchair or disability that makes getting around more difficult, honestly, I would rarely see students in wheelchairs on campus, probably just because they stayed away from the campus because of how hilly it is and how little accommodations there are. There were very few classrooms that I ever even walked into that had a desk that could accommodate a student in a wheelchair. Obviously, it's a California state public school, so they must comply with the regulations, but I gave a speech in an English class just about the lack of effort that they put to even making it like make sense. Like they'll have a ramp, but it's so far away and in a random spot that's like hard to find and it's just not convenient. The next thing that I wrote down might be a good thing or a bad thing. There is no Greek row, and just Greek life in general is not huge on campus. It's pretty big, but it's not like a southern school where it dominates most social aspects of school. Pretty much all of the houses house less than 10 girls, if that's something that like you've always wanted in your college experience. I've seen tours of Greek houses on YouTube, and I'll see all these southern schools where they have these huge rooms and like a bathroom as like a get ready space, and it looks amazing, and that's not at all what Cal Poly's Greek houses are like. Yeah, if that typical Greek row, Greek life experience is what you're looking for in college, Cal Poly offers some of it, but not all of it, if that makes sense. The next thing that I wrote is that big cities are about 3 hours away. SLO is such a cute town. It is adorable. I love SLO. There's so many quaint parts of it and there's so much to offer, but you can get a little bit bored. And if you're really into like events and going to concerts and big things like that, SLO does not have a whole lot to offer. And if you do want to go to those things, you would go to LA, sometimes in Santa Barbara, which is about an hour and a half away. We'll have some bigger city event, but LA or San Jose or San Francisco, which are 3 hours away. You're farther from that city life scene and just simple things like there is no mall in SLO. It's kind of nice to not have a mall, but as someone who grew up in a bigger city, I was just not even expecting that. Like I didn't even think that there were places that didn't have a mall. The next thing that I wrote down kind of goes along with the whole Greek life thing. This might be a good thing for you, this might be not a great thing for you, but if you're picturing that typical college experience of tailgating and going to football games, Cal Poly has a football team. There are some tailgates, but they are horrible. We I never went to a single football game, and I never felt like I missed out by not going. I didn't really know anybody that went. Maybe they went like once or twice. I don't love football, but I definitely, especially my freshman year, seeing a lot of friends at other colleges going to tailgates and just having that school spirit and that school pride. Cal Poly has a ton of school spirit and school pride, but our sports are not what motivates it. So if that's something that's like really important to you and you love to watch football and you want that experience, you're not really going to get that at Cal Poly. The last thing that I wrote about Cal Poly is that police give out tickets like crazy. And police know that students are an easy target, and they are literally always looking. Not that much happens in SLO, so police use students as like the opportunity to give out tickets with like parking on a street. They literally, if you're there for 20 minutes, you're gonna get a ticket. I saw so many people who were just like riding bikes. Obviously, like, they were not doing anything blatantly unsafe, but they, you know, they're all these rules. I don't know, I didn't ride a bike to school, but, you know, the rules of the road on a bike, they would give tickets to bicyclists, which I just think is crazy because, like, they're helping the environment by biking. Like, that's the last thing I would want to discourage. And then on campus too, they're crazy with the tickets. I mean, just in general, like noise complaints, underage drinking is definitely caught more in SLO than it is at, I feel like, most other colleges. But yeah, like most people will get their fake IDs taken away. Like I have friends who went to school in other states and like in bigger cities where you can go to the clubs when you're not 21 and like you don't get caught. So like I said, I loved Cal Poly SLO, but obviously there are downfalls to every school, and if you are trying to pick between colleges, feel free to message me on Instagram or leave a question in the comments. I'm happy to talk to anybody about Cal Poly and my experience, but these are the 10 biggest downfalls that I could think of. I hope this video was helpful. Again, reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.